We're not going to give you guidance on that, essentially because it's somewhat of a gray area. You already have the money, you've already accumulated the funds, LDC, so does that mean you can continue to administer grants? And when I reviewed the new statute, and I reviewed all of the rules, and I took all of the guidance that the Attorney General's office was given, I said, you know what, I really believe that we should start a new process and strictly adhere to the new statute, which says that grants are out. And the way to do it is to have a competitive contracting situation where you advertise it and different consultants can pitch us and put in proposals and see if they could get the job. So there was a problem because we had up to a 3-month window there where the LDC would have been without these services. Because the grant had expired at the end of June, and we said, well, we may not get the new vendor on board until as late as September, because whatever we do here is going to have to get approval from the Township Committee. So if we vote on these resolutions today, appointing the vendor and extending what I'm going to describe, how we're going to extend these services, if we vote on that today, all of that has to be approved by the governing body of the township. So specifically what we're asking you to approve today is the resolutions are going to extend the networking grant for a period up to 3 months, but it's really going to be only up to today because another resolution on the agenda is going to award the networking bid under competitive contracting to the successful bidder, and I'll go into that a little bit more in the future. So resolution 190803 is to extend the project of the grant that we've been giving out for years for just an additional up to 3-month period, which is really going to be only 5 weeks, but it gives us the discretion to go up to 5 months, 3 months I should say, and that would extend the project. Resolution 04 would extend the contract with the LCSC for the networking services that they've been providing. You have to do both of those resolutions. One would be extend the project, the other one extends the contract for a period of time until we have the opportunity to appoint the new vendor under competitive contracting. Then I move on to resolution 05, same concept. We're extending the project for the loan program, for the loan supervision program that the LCSC has been doing. And that's to extend the project. And then resolution 6 would extend that agreement for an additional period of time so that we're not left in a lurch where we don't have anybody doing those functions for the period of time that we were out doing the competitive contracting. Did I get those right?
Yeah, for some reason it's number 3, but it should be 5. Right. Resolution 1908 should be -5, authorizing amendment to extend subrecipient agreement up to 3 months for the business networking.
Okay. All right.
That's resolution 4.
For the record. Sorry?
Resolution 4, you mean?
After 4. See, it goes resolution 2, 3, 4, and then it says 3 again.
Right, so that means that number 4 should be resolution 1908-5.
I believe it's number 4, right, of that numbered item should be 19-08-5.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know how that crept in there.
And the camera is working for this meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, same thing with, where we now are number 5, which is resolution 03, which is authorizing the amendment to extend the subrecipient agreement, essentially the contract, for another 3-month period. Resolution 08-6 is, so now under item number 6, which is resolution 08-6, what we are now doing is we are awarding a consulting, is that the project or is that?
Project.
That's the project.
You're
So we're-
looking at the closed session.
I have the wrong agenda, that's what I'm
You
looking
can
at.
take mine.
Okay, all right,
Okay,
sorry.
Yeah.
So,
I know we had to redo the agenda.
So we're looking at the bullet points. So,
Bullet point 6 is resolution 08-7, which is the consulting contract for the
Yeah, that's okay.
so essentially, what we're doing is, if you have the actual resolution, so you can just,
You have attached to your legal.
Yeah, they're still the same resolution.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What was once the closed, yeah. Yeah, it's open.
so we're up to resolution 08-7. This is the new project that we are awarding to the LCSC. We engaged in a competitive contracting situation. They were the successful bidders. Mr. Klein and myself ranked the bids that came in, and the LCSC received the highest rank under competitive contracting that is required. We have to sit down and rank the submissions. There was actually 2 submissions for the loan oversight services, and there was just the,
For the.
there was
Special events. Can I describe
Yeah,
just
go
the
ahead.
process very briefly?
Yeah.
All right, so the process was that we made adequate notice over 20 days as required by law in public, what's the word?
Bidding.
News outlets, exactly, for this RFP. And the RFP, the bid proposals were due back on Monday, August 5th, which was yesterday, at 10 a.m. We received 3 proposals. 2 proposals for the special events project, which is, which we have a resolution here for the board, you know, if they so will, to approve for the consulting services. And 1 proposal for the revolving loans program, which was, the revolving loan program bid was submitted by Lakewood Community Services Corporation. For the special events, we had Lakewood Community Service Corporation and also a group called Fuerza Strategy Group. We used a
What are they called?
Fuerza Strategy Group out of Tillerin,
Canellen,
New Jersey.
Union, I think, Union County.
Is that neighborhood? We then had a proposal review committee, which happened to consist of myself and Mr. Keene. And we had, for the loan program, 9 qualifiers with a maximum score attainable of 9. And for the special events, 7 qualifiers with a maximum attainable score of 7. I'll pass these out to the members. These are the score sheets which scored all the proposals. Now, of course, with the revolving loan program, we had 1 submittal, and they scored an 8 out of 9 possible points. So, and the recommendation would be to award contract to LCSC for the loan program. And for the special events project, we had Lakewood Community Service Corporation, which scored a 7 out of 8. Actually, 7 out of 8. I take that back. There was an additional one. Fuerza scored a 2. So the recommendation would be for, once again, LCSC. And you can see that all the conditions and requirements that were considered. Is this available to the public if they wanted to see it?
After it's voted on.
After it's voted, this would be available to the public after the vote. All right, no, sorry, that's my insertion right there.
Anybody have any questions on the process or the recommendation? Essentially what we're doing is, by voting on these resolutions, we're extending the current situation with regard to LCSC having a gap period where the grant is extended for a period of time until such time that the competitive contracting award can be made. In this particular case, as David said, there was 2 responses to the business-to-business proposal, and there was only 1 response to the loan supervision service. Both of these are consulting activities.
And when is once the bid is accepted?
So if we vote on these tonight, they still require additional
Township?
by the township, which is why we give ourselves a little bit more time. Maybe they vote on it in August. If not, we still have a little bit of.
Maybe next Thursday, if you get it to us, we'll do it then.
So then it could get done next Thursday, and then, so this doesn't mean that you're awarding this for 3 months plus the new amount. It's either or. There's language in here that says this is up to 3 months, or when the award is made, whichever is sooner. So in this case, it's LCSC. They're the incumbent. If you vote to give them the new competitive contracting, contract, then they would just pick up where they were. They wouldn't be any double dipping, so to speak.
Extensions are able to be done without township approval?
No, everything would get township approval.
No problem. You need the extension why?
Extension
I thought
is,
the
do
extension
you need
was-
extension approval? No.
That's
Well,
extended.
it's
The extension up
extending,
to, correct?
Yes.
Why would
Once
the
the
contracts, once the township approves it, and the contracts are written, then you can award it. You don't have to take the full 5 weeks of the extension.
Exactly,
Right.
that's correct. It's whichever
They didn't know what
comes
the
first.
township meeting dates were, so they didn't put it in the contract.
Right, so we gave ourselves a period of time, that, a window to just make sure we don't run out of time.
The problem is we need to have the township authorize the additional funds into that whole project in the township system, so that we can go. So we need the township to authorize the extra spending of the one project that just ended.
So,
So that's why we need to award the extension to carry them over until we can
oh,
award the
then
new
the township will
bid.
do it retroactively?
Yeah,
yeah, there's language in the resolution to retro it back to July 1st, which was the day that the prior grant ended.
yeah, and they've been providing the services
Yes,
in
the
the interim.
new one can't be retroactive because it's a new award, a new project. So it has to be effective when we award it.
I would recommend the
Okay.
township, take action on all of these items, just to make sure that the proper approval is given for the expenditures.
That's the way it's supposed to have always been done. Once they approve it here, then the township
Right,
approves it
yeah.
and it comes back.
By the way, there's a quiz when we're done.
Well, the question is, should Isaac and I recuse ourselves from any of these?
No.
Okay.
Because, it's not a conflict, it would only be a conflict if, like the rabbi would have a conflict because he has a direct
I
involvement.
just want to make sure.
So, any other questions with regard to what we're doing here?
I have a question. It's about, someone approached me and told me that they gave in a bid as well, third person, I guess, for Lakewood Shepherd.
So the
Thanks.
RFP said the bids had to be, had to come into the executive director's office by 10 a.m. yesterday. And at this time, we never received the party, other than the bids that we're discussing here this evening, we haven't received any other bids.
That's the deadline for that.
I think the wording was they had to be submitted, and they weren't submitted because we didn't receive them.
When did that come, you know?
Well, I could speak to that. So on Monday, August 5th at 10 a.m., we actually, that was the deadline. We waited a half an hour. We made an announcement, a public announcement in the office of the official closing of the bid. I have that available as well if you'd like to see it. And I would say approximately, must have been about 2 hours after the close of the bid, two gentlemen came into the office with, am I allowed to mention the name of it?
No, don't mind.
Okay, but from another organization, befuddled that that we couldn't, they couldn't provide the bid past the time, claiming that it was sent in the mail. And unfortunately, I told them that we did not receive it by the deadline of 10 o'clock a.m. So I told them they could speak with Yehuda Abraham, the purchasing agent, and if they have any questions about the language in our RFP and in the public notice, and they did not return.
No, I just wanted to see if there's a way, if it's late, it's late. I just wanted to see if there's a way we could stick them in addition to what the LCSC is doing. Maybe they add some value too, because I like what they did with their business, even though LCSC is doing business networking, a sister organization of theirs did a very good job.
They missed the
In
deadline.
addition to, right, so that's what I was
You mean for
asking.
additional, if we ever have an additional project or something? to
No,
that effect?
even for advertising, maybe they can add to what the LCSC is doing, that's all. So that's why I brought it up. If they're late, they're late.
There's nothing to
That's why I brought it
prevent you
up.
from doing some future competitive contracting for a project, if you have something you need to do to rebid something, but as far as this particular
I would tell them, okay, so I would tell them to come in and discuss and throw a pitch. And then if there's room, and if there's room for their services beyond what the LCSC is doing, then
do another RFP. Sure. Take a vote.
Yeah, so I hope that clears the situation.
That was the director's report?
Well, that was the new business. There's one more new business, two new business items that,
So what I would recommend is if we could take a vote on the resolutions, and then Rabbi Weisberg could come up and join in the discussion on the
So we're
landscape.
voting on resolutions
1 through 6.
2.
2 through 6? One is.
One is for closed session. And we come out of closed, we'll talk about that one.
Is it?
Okay, I'm gonna close the meeting, guys.
This one we were discussing in closed session.
Items 1 through 6, resolutions 2 through 7.
Good.
So the first resolution.
The consent agenda starts at 19-8-2.
No, yeah, I see, I'm just looking at.
and there's a dash on the closed. These are
Crowds.
Individual vote, you're spending money.
Yeah, correct. We need a roll call on issues.
So we're doing.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was supposed to be 9%?
Two-
It's okay.
No, it said
2 through 6?
It's not consent. This is the first one.
2 through 6?
Yeah, we're doing three.
No, we're doing them individually.
I understand.
Are
we doing them as a group?
Yeah, we're gonna go two and
Sean,
six.
you said we're not doing them as a group individually?
Correct, we're doing them individually.
Yeah, can I just make a quick comment? In the haste of having to prepare a new agenda very quickly, I put these items, for the record, put these items in the consent agenda. They should have been placed in number 14, non-consent agenda, and that was an error.
Okay.
Okay,
So we're voting on them individually, it's not a problem.
yeah.
Okay. Motion to move resolution 19-8-3.
Two, we have to do two first.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
resolution 19-8-2. Move. Mr. McNeil?
Second.
Second, Mr. Coles. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
Motion to move resolution 19-8-3.
I'll move it.
Mr. Ackerman, second. Mr. Leonard. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles,
Yes.
Mike McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion to move resolution 19-8-4. Move.
Second.
Mr. McNeil, Mr. Coles. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles,
Yes.
Mike McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion to move resolution 19-8 not supposed to be 3, it's supposed to be 5, right? 5. Mr. Coles. Mr. McNeil. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman.
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil.
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the motion to move resolution 19-8-6.
So made.
Second, Mr. Ackerman, Mr. Coles. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil.
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And a motion to move resolution 19-8-7.
No. not yet.
Oh,
Yes, you're right.
I'll move it.
Mr. Ackerman. Second. Mr. Bennett. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil.
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Bennett.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Motion carries.
And then Rabbi Weisberg, are you gonna come back up, please?
Price is right, come on.
You can vote from there. We can hear you.
No,
Who's gonna
you don't
decide?
have to,
Just
you add anything to the report?
No.
You don't.
No, we just have two more
You're right.
new business items.
Okay.
No. There's a closed.
Oh, yeah, let's see. Like your-
By the way, blinds to go. I sent you gentlemen an email, and she's, whenever you're ready to, she'd like to come to the township for a meeting, but whenever you gentlemen are ready.
I don't want to miss that, so.
Yeah, so
Mike,
you just
set
have
it
to
up,
let me
if I can
know.
make it, I will be there.
Yeah, Mike, why don't you set it up and you.
Well, set it up with
We have applications and stuff.
Set it with-
Yeah, set it up.
You want me to set it up?
Yeah.
then? All right, so I'll put out a few dates and, give you some options.
I don't need any, I'll be there.
No, agenda.
Thank you for that, setting that up.
Okay, we look at resolution 8-8.
8-8, yeah. Okay, we're introducing the new business
Do you want
item?
to just discuss what it is before the?
Well, actually, I would really defer to Rabbi Weisberg because he has much more background on the situation. And you want to introduce the concept of well, it's to authorize second generation funds for the Lakewood student busing appropriation for $1.5 million. We had to create a project, and I think the best way to introduce this was to allow the rabbi to explain that.
Okay, so as we all know, Lakewood has gone through an unusually difficult year this year in terms of funding of various school district activities, and specifically the busing. By way of background, about 3.5 years ago or so, thanks to our legislators and their colleagues in Trenton, there was something called the Lakewood Student Transportation Authority that was created by the legislature in Trenton, which was sort of an entity that managed the busing. What was found in the previous year, when the district itself ran the busing, it was an extremely bureaucratic process. It involved busing tens of thousands of students, and it really bogged down the district administration. They needed to become experts and professionals on routes and things like that, really off target for what they really are charged to do, which is educate the children in the public school system. They became a busing company in effect, and there were various, there was funding issues, there were inefficiencies, and it was just a wrong fit. The school district was running what was essentially not only busing for the public school students, but by state law, they also required to provide busing for students that live beyond 2 miles for non-public schools. So we're dealing with a network of 100+ schools that they had to provide. I don't know, thousands of routes. We have the director of LSTA sitting in the audience. I believe it's thousands of routes. And they had this whole, in Yiddish we call it a cholent, which is a stew, cholents. We put in potatoes and beans.
My God,
literally it was a mess. And so the legislature charged this new entity that this would be their one and only job. They would be a busing management company, nothing else. And they would manage the busing, and they got an appropriation from Trenton directly to manage the busing. It was channeled through the school district, but it was actually funded through the legislature in Trenton. What happened was it expired, and without commentary, let me just say that those who follow the news, there were some very interesting moments before the budget was passed at the end of June, and our Assemblyman can give details if anybody wants to hear it, but basically it was a zoo, and there was a lot of horse trading that went on, and there was a lot of things that sort of messed up. And at the end of the day, the LSTA expired without being renewed. So we had a real crisis here in Lakewood. It affects 30-odd thousand children that their busing was not assured in any way. And that was sort of landed at the township's doorstep, meaning the community, the school district, the township committee, and what do we do with getting these 30-something thousand students to school? So after a lot of consultation with community leaders, within the township committee, and with the district officials, an approach was created whereby LSTA 2, if you will, which is a second version of what the LSTA was, would be continued for another year through a competitive bidding process, similarly that we went through that here a few minutes ago, that the district would bring in a management company instead of bringing it back all in district and having all the headaches of running whatever busing with all the limitations and restrictions and personnel. They would do pretty much the same thing that Trenton did 3 years ago and create this authority. This would be funded through a loan that the Trenton, the treasurer of the state of New Jersey awarded a loan to the district to cover a whole bunch of items, including the busing. So now the loan came from Trenton to the district, and now the district is going to bid out the busing piece of it in an open competitive bidding process. It seems that the LSTA is in the best position with their network and contacts with these thousands of routes and all the different busing companies that are involved, that they would, with a pretty high level of confidence, they will be the successful bidder, because in Lakewood itself, we really don't have anyone that has the capacity or the experience to do that. It's not to say someone can come out of left field, but everything being the way it is, it seems that they will be the likely recipient of the bid. Based on that, just dealing with these thousands of kids that are out there right now, we're dealing with a gap situation, because in order to get busing up by September 1st, we have to have busing companies in place and all of that. So the LSTA, as a private entity, and they're not profit, but we're treating them like a business. This was in consultations with the Township Committee, and actually I have to give really our appreciation as a community to the mayor, who was very, very helpful in just helping brainstorm and sort all of this out. So the idea came up in discussion that perhaps as the LDC, they're no worse than any other business that comes in front of us for a loan. What they need the loan for is it's basically a gap loan that would, until the funding stream begins, when the reimbursements are going to come in through the district from that loan that Trenton awarded, it's going to take a month or two until this works its way through the works. In the meantime, to get the busing companies up and running, there's still payroll to the bus drivers from June that has not been paid, because in the past it was, as the next year started, they were always able to sort of forward fund and keep the process going. The bottom line is there's a gap right now, and if we don't get the bus drivers who put in the work in June paid, then they're probably not going to want to work. And it's going to put a huge monkey wrench into getting busing up and running for the next year. So just without all the, extra, what did I say? That's going on here. The simple question in front of us is if we can extend a loan to the LSTA, which will probably be repaid in 2 months. They're for, just for a safety margin, they're asking through December 31st, but it will be until the active reimbursement comes, and they would return it to us as soon as the funding flow starts. So there's a proposal, and we passed out that they put that excuse me?
My question is, how fast, if this goes through, how fast would the bus drivers will be paid?
If we, so let me introduce Abraham Kravitz. Can we invite you to come up?
The folks that have not been paid, if this goes through, how fast would they get paid?
I just want to, one little tweak to Rabbi Weisberg. First of all, I think Rabbi Weisberg knows the LST entity better than I do with listening to him. He knows his stuff.
You learned anything at that?
The bus drivers are paid by the vendors. We owe the vendors. The bus drivers got their money.
Okay.
But the vendors need their money. There's always, when you work, I just wanted to tweak that. When you work with the state funding until the money comes in, there's always a little downtime, or separate or gap, as you want to say. In our case, till we get contracted, we have that little gap. In previous years, when the LSTA was a 2-year pilot program, they would always advance us money from the next year. Just a little synopsis on why we're in the equation. We were able to, the genius of the LSTA concept, nothing to do with me, with the legislatures and all the powers that we had put together, was the first time ever in Lakewood it created a community partnership or a consortium or collaborative efforts between the schools, the district, the parents, to get together and figure out how we can do busing better, how we can do it more affordable. So one of the first things, just jumping to year 2, was we reintroduced renewals on routes. The district hasn't renewed routes previously for 6 or 7 years. That means every year they would put the whole system out to bid again. Which, an example that we use is, say that you own an apartment building or a building full of tenants, and every year you throw them out and you have to put them back again. It doesn't promote stability, and STA and Durham left Lakewood because of lack of stability. We've been renewing, 70% of our routes are renewed from 3 years ago. We get the CPI cost, which is 1.51, and it keeps the costs in check. So when we bid the first year, the threshold for students was $884, so the vendors were competitive over $884. We got all our bids in before they raised to $1,000. As the bids were in, from the $884 threshold, it stayed, and that surplus of money we're still alive from bidding that early, and the vendors keep on renewing at the 1.5%. That, the renewals.
1.5% is like a built-in.
That's the CPI that the state gives us, yeah. So the key to stability is the 1.5%. Just another point to what Rabbi Weisberg mentioned, the reason why the Board of Ed doesn't want to do these routes is because if it goes back to the Board of Ed, then all the vendors have, right now, we've been building routes from way before June 30th when the LSTA language was taken out of the budget. We've been building routes for next year and renewing since March. So we have vendors that are committed to keep at the previous pricing. If it goes back to the Board of Ed, the vendors don't have to keep those prices, and then everything jumps back up to $1,000 threshold, which is what it is right now, and we're looking at additional cost to the district of $4 or $5 million more. So the district says, we would rather find a means of keeping the LSTA as the managing entity to keep the price in check, and to be able to keep a lot of the efficiencies that we've done. We've eliminated about 1,000 stops in the system with Lakewood's growth over the last 3 years. That means people are walking. The community has understood that I need to walk further to my stop in order to get busing.
We've lost a lot of weight as a community.
We've lost a lot of weight, which is healthy, which is healthy all around. But some of the schools have even lessened one dismissal. Everybody understands it's a collaborative effort to try to make this system work. So we grow around 3,000 students yearly. Just to put this in context, the district regular education is at 6,000 kids. We've grown since the LSTA started almost 9,000 kids. So we've grown the size of the district 1.5 times since we've started. And we've been able to keep the prices in check because we're renewing the routes. Now we do have to add new routes yearly as Lakewood grows, as schools grow, and schools that have sometimes one class then have a parallel class, and obviously we don't control that. But the growth is incredible, and that's why we're here. We're here to make the system work to the best of our abilities.
So you need the vendors.
We need the vendors.
So is there any threat from any of the vendors for us if they don't get paid?
Well, they won't start the year if they don't get paid. They're not here. They're not doing tzedakah, charity. They're
not part of our
collaboration.
collaboration.
They're not part of the collaboration. No. And again, actually the way we get our money is later than the Board of Ed used to give them money, because the Board of Ed was a pass-through. We would send previously every month an outside firm audited our monthlies, and we wouldn't actually get paid till the monthlies. So the vendors already with LSTA have been delayed from what they got previously because of the way the system was set up.
So when you say now that it's $1,000 the cost, what do you mean that it's now $1,000?
That means the state gives up to $1,000 for every mandated student. Elementary 2.01. So, but most 70% of our bids are renewed from the 884 threshold. That means the ceiling was 884. They were competitive under that. If there's no LSTA or it goes to the Board of Ed, then every route the vendor does not have to keep it. He says, I contract with the LSTA, I didn't contract with the Board of Ed, and then you're looking at that $4 to $5 million is the Board of Ed's estimation on what it would actually cost them.
But they don't have to keep it by you either. It's a courtesy. They haven't signed.
Correct, but
where
we're standing now.
You provide the consistency.
Right.
So that
Where we're now, they've already renewed. We're almost done. That means if you tell me we start school in a week, we'd be ready to start school.
So you're getting the difference between the 1,000 now and whatever they bid.
We're getting $1,000 per mandated kid. Correct.
And you're getting for the unmandated kids.
We get the parents opt into us. They give us $150. And the idea is, just so you know, not to get technical, if you run mandated only routes, so your routes have to start 2 miles out of school, pick up all the kids within 2 miles, drop them to school, and then go back out 2 miles. The concept of mixed busing means you start like a pizza pie, you start at the end by the crust, and you work your way in to pick up the non-mandated kids. You're on your way to school anyway, so you're able to do that. No, mandated only routes. If we ever have to come to a time in Lakewood that we did mandated only routes, so besides the non-mandated kids that wouldn't get busing, a third of the mandated kids wouldn't get busing either, because that bus that now could do a boys' high school, and the schools have changed their times to make it work. A boys' high school, a boys' elementary, or girls, that bus can only do 2 out of 3. So 1/3 of the mandated students wouldn't get busing either. It's a little bit technical, I know, just whatever.
No. Okay. This goes a lot deeper than just getting kids back and forth to school, which is really the most important thing. But if, God forbid, the busing stopped even for a short period of time, business in this town would probably grind to a halt. The traffic we saw a couple of years ago, when it was just a couple of days, what happened? People wouldn't be able to get to work, businesses wouldn't be able to open. From my point of view, it's an emergency situation. We have to make sure that these buses are running as soon as kids go back to school.
I agree on that one.
And thanks for touching on it. That's the
Yeah,
economic benefit
you're right.
for considering this loan through the urban enterprise zone.
It'd be gridlock to get
Yeah.
it all together.
Yeah, in fact, we have language in the resolution for
When
that.
you come to work, the workers have to get to school.
You see that like,
If they have to carpool, then all those people that are doing the carpool can get to their jobs, and it just has a trickle.
It would be, I call it a day that would be in infamy forever in Lakewood.
every once in a while, we haven't had it recently, but every once in a while, we have, like, let's say the first day of day camps, when if busing wasn't set up yet,
Yeah.
which happened in the past. You see, like, there's no point. I bring my kids to, either myself or my wife, we bring them 10:30, whatever, when everybody's done. Because it doesn't even make sense to go out between 8:30 and 10 o'clock.
So I think it's a great point, because now, if you drive the streets when the day camps are running, not every day camp has busing, and the day camps actually charge all the kids for busing. So some of the parents do get together and drive, and I know just for me, my commute in the morning is taking a good 15 minutes longer than usual, because it's a lot more loose, the day camps, when they start, when they go, and also they're not working at a prescribed time. Some of the day camps start at 10 o'clock. So you have kids and people around from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock trying to get that around. But the nightmare scenario would be if there was no busing in town, there would be no schools, no work, no public school, no yeshivas, no nothing, just because you wouldn't be able to traverse from place to place.
I just want to add another piece, that I think the township and by extension the community with their taxes has sort of undertaken the responsibility to bus what we call the non-mandated students, both in the public schools and the non-public schools, because it would be an impossible situation to have children walking or carpooling for less than 2 miles would be an extreme safety issue, and it would, again, clog. And we have in that boat, I think the majority of public school children are non-mandated.
56.5%.
So that comes out to, was that over 3,000 of the
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
schools? And about a third of the private schools, do I have that right, are non-mandated. So for the public school portion, township has limitations what they can fund, but they've undertaken to fund the public school non-mandated, which is wrongly called courtesy, we call it safety busing. Abe here, through his efficiencies in the routing, and because of the differential that we just discussed between the 884 and the 1,000, he was able to tweak it that they, without an additional cost to the state or to the district, he was able to, finagle, is that the right word? He was able to make it work, let me put it that way. Again, going from the pizza crust in, he was able to do that.
I like that.
So that's a huge savings.
Next time, bring the pizza.
So potentially, it would be a tremendous burden on the township if they would, be in a situation where they would have to consider whether to fund the non-public, non-mandated busing, or, just let it loose and let it be a free-for-all. And, this, if we advance this loan to the LSTA, it just puts things back where they were, and it puts it back into an orderly efficient process that has worked for the last 3 years, that basically, again, nobody's happy. For parents, but I understand for me, I'm a grandfather, all my kids are out of the house, but I understand if a bus comes 5 or 10 minutes late, he hears about it. So, we're dealing with populations here that, each one, they do their gripes, but overall, I think everybody's satisfied with the system. The district is satisfied, parents are satisfied, the schools are satisfied, that this is the best we can do under the situations, and purely compliments to you and to the whole LSTA for doing that. So, that's basically what's in front of us today.
So for an order for the LDC to authorize this usage of fund for this purpose, a project has to be created for that purpose, and that's what Resolution 19-08-8 proposes.
I just have a quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I never get along for $1,500,000 with that. Is the LTA a profitable entity? I didn't see any financials, so I'm just.
Yeah.
So we do have,
Well,
they supplied the last 2 years, was it, of financials, and it's as of May 31st. They are, I can't say they're tremendously profitable as a profitable business, but they are in the black.
They operate within the budget.
They operate within the budget, and projecting forward, it's projected that they will do so as well.
And I don't want to conflate two things. We have two resolutions here regarding this project. The first resolution is giving the authority, creating this project to give authority to loan those funds. The next resolution, 19-08-9, is awarding those funds to the LSTA if the board chooses to do so. And within this resolution, there's a number of contingencies, including sitting the finance committee together and reviewing their financials. We have, of course, pass muster and our standard conditions to qualify for the funds. So that would be your second resolution, 19-8-9. And you can see in their contingencies, they are a registered UEZ business. They're going to have to meet state tax compliance. They're going to have to meet the approval of the finance committee and the review of their financials and et cetera. So, I believe that's where we are.
Questions?
And this money gets paid back as soon
This
as.
is the first money, right? That's the agreement. This is not, with all the other bills he pays, we get paid back first. As soon as the reimbursements come through, we're the first on the line to get, and fully repaid.
Just to add, on a typical year, on July 30th, the Board of Ed would give me that $1.5 million.
You mean in the past 3 years?
Correct.
That's correct. Okay.
So in the RFP, we would write that upon contract, we would do the same payment terms that we did till now, and retroactively ask for that $1.5 million.
Right, that they would have, or should have.
That they would have, which they did last year, correct.
Yeah. I would just read the paragraph in resolution number 8, just reading the terms of what this loan would be. Whereas the LDC Finance Committee of the Lakewood Development Corporation meet and review the application provided and recommend or not recommend that the LDC accept and authorize the award of $1.5 million loan at 0% rate of interest for a repayment period of 5 months with a full payment of the loan funds by December 31st, 2019. So that would be the parameters of what this loan would consist of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we ready for a motion?
We're done with new business?
I'll move 1908-8.
Any committee reports?
He's trying to tell the chairman.
Oh, I couldn't.
Okay.
I'll take my motion back.
No committee reports,
One
okay?
committee report, being that I was part of the labor, is that we did pick up some applications from Blinds to Go. We started handing out a few, but I'm glad that you made your announcement today. And we'll work that out.
We'll get that set up.
Yeah, I want to thank you on that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Open the meeting to the public. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, close to the public. Any comments by trustees?
Yeah, I just want to say that the last presentation that was made was very enlightening for me. Heard a lot of things that normally you don't hear in a presentation.
You talking about the one that was?
The gentleman that just made, yeah. You know, all the questions and answers were pretty there, so I want to thank him.
And I just like to say, maybe I should step back in the audience, but I want to give a thank you for the lot of kind spends of the LCSC for us to continue our activities. I have Alex Loja here as our Director of Small Business Services, who's been a point man on all of these loans, and take this opportunity to just if any of the trustees and anybody in the audience have people that would be interested in taking advantage of a microloan program. It's probably the flagship program, certainly in Lakewood, and I would say in the UEZ in general, in the trend, it's been touted as, this is what the UEZ is all about, to do these kinds of programs. We've done over 150 of these microloans over the years. They were especially useful during Hurricane Sandy, if you can remember that. Within 2 months, we were able to give some of the businesses that were badly affected by the 2-week shutdown, that lost perishable items, food businesses, and businesses that kept paying their own employees while they didn't have any revenue coming in. And that $35,000 that we're able to advance to them at that time really made a big difference to them. And it's thanks to the efforts of the LDC and the people at the LCSC that made it happen. So we really have a very proud record, both at the LDC and LCSC, for doing this. And again, we appreciate your confidence with this. Same thing for the networking events. Many of you have been there, and we invite you again to come. Some of you have presented at the networking events. Short has presented, and David's always there, and anyone else that wants to, present with us. All different kinds of things: marketing, attorneys, CPAs, just good tips how to close out a year, how to, Ben Heineman presented on how to keep clients, and I learned something. He says it's 10 times cheaper to keep a client than to get a new one. It sounds, very basic, but most people spend all this money advertising to get new clients. And, I'm just giving like real hands-on tips from people that are out there that know what they're talking about. And the events are very well attended, between 50 and 100 people at every event, almost, without fail. And again, thank you.
We're still ready to present one. Still promise, still facilities.
I guess it's a good shout out to
We'll
Sarah.
see. No, we'll turn this down, Ray.
Just to clarify, 19-8-8 is the request for the.
Creating the project.
For the project.
Creating the project to authorize the usage of second-generation funds for the purpose of funding this special project, correct? Lakewood Student Busing Appropriation Program. It's called the UEZ SGF 2019-4 Lakewood Student Busing Appropriation Project.
Motion to move resolution dash 19-8.
Motion back on the table.
Yeah, Ray motioned it, and Mike seconded before. So
I'll
Redo it? Okay, roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Molish,
Yes.
Ellie Reddick.
Yes.
Evan Westbrook.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And motion to move resolution 19-8-9, which is actually awarding the loan.
Move.
Contingency. Mr. Cole and Mr. McNeil. Roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles.
Yes.
Mike McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Molish,
Yes.
Ellie Reddick.
Yes.
Evan Westbrook.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The motion moved into closed session.
Move.
On the vice president, Mr. Coles. And the members of the public.
Thank you. Touch the camera. So we forgot.
Yeah, we got the closed session.
Is there a way of doing this here, or no, we have no option?
I guess we should probably, if we can, hold everything until the last minute. If it's a resolution we have to vote on coming out of closed session,
Right.
then no. But if it's just a
Okay,
discussion for closed session,
We're on?
Turn it on.
we can hold close until the very end. Anita says it's on, so we're good to go.
I just heard it.
We're on.
We're on the live stream?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on.
Oh, there it is. There's a light.
Okay, motion to move resolution 19-8-1.
Moved.
Otherwise, Weisberg, second, Mr. McNeil, roll call.
Albert Ackerman,
Yes.
Ray Coles,
Yes.
Ed McNeil,
Yes.
Abraham Muller,
Yes.
Ellie Rennet,
Yes.
Rabbi Weisberg,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Abstain.
All right.
All right.